Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our Bosch Legacy Season 2, Episode 1 reaction and review is back. We are back with Bosch. It's been a while since Bosch Legacy Season 1 ended, which was not good for anyone based on how that season ended.
Really bad for Maddie. I am so glad this show is back after that cliffhanger. I love Bosch. This is one of my favorite shows, and I'm so excited that it is back. And with that cliffhanger, I've just been like at the edge of my seat waiting to find out what is going to happen now that Maddie's been taken
Yeah.
by this city contractor, like
Yeah.
how they were going to figure it out. I did not expect to see as much Jerry Edgar as we got because we only really had like a little tiny cameo of him last season. I love Edgar. I'm so happy that he seemingly is going to have a big role this season. I mean, he was all over
Yeah.
that premiere.
Well, how can he not? It's just sort of like if Maddie is taken, Bosch is going to need obviously some help, and he's going to need help from people he can actually trust.
Yeah.
And if there is one thing from years of covering police dramas have taught us, it's that you never know who is rogue, so you gotta find the good ones within the force.
Absolutely. And it is always Edgar.
It's always Edgar, and to me, like there was never really that much drama, and like, okay, it's Maddie alive, like they're not gonna kill Maddie Bosch.
You know what? There was a moment in this episode when he went to the morgue, and I was like, okay, in my heart of hearts, I know this show is not going to kill off Maddie.
Yeah,
But there was a minute that I was like, this show does take some pretty large swings sometimes. Are they actually going to kill off Maddie? Because if they do, that completely changes the Bosch character and it sends him on a crazy arc this season. I don't know. There was a minute that I was like, are they going to take that swing?
I had maybe a second when he first walked into the morgue, and it just like a tiny pit in my stomach. It's like you, it's like, okay, they're not killing her, but it's like, what if they do? What if they do? What's gonna happen?
Yeah, well, that's the thing is it was like, okay, with the whole morgue scene when Bosch got the call, I was just like, this could actually be happening because I would assume, and I don't know a lot about the police work, but that they would probably have their DNA or prints or something like that on file. That if this woman came into the morgue, that they would have done at least that to be like, oh, it's her. Oh, the call is coming in. Oh, it's really her.
Yeah, this episode gives you a pit in the stomach there, and I mean, even at the end of it, like, it's still not exactly clear that Maddie is in a particularly good spot here, let's be honest.
No, she is not.
All right, well, we will get into everything else that happened, but before we dive any further here, be sure to join our Patreon. Every single week, we have live streams talking all about Bosch Legacy.
Yep.
So check that link out in the description, and thank you, of course, to everyone who is supporting us over there. We really appreciate it.
Okay, let's just get into that whole morgue scene since we're talking about it here. I just want to give like a little bit of a clap here to Titus Welliver because that scene with him was so tense and he played this so just seamlessly of just like how tense it was to get that call, how heartbreaking it was to get that call, to just have the unknowing if this is really his daughter or not, walking in to the morgue, pulling back, the sheet, seeing that it's not her, but that reaction that he had at the car of like stress, relief, like still more stress because even though she's not at the morgue, she's still out there.
Yeah.
It was such an incredible performance by him, and we've never really seen Bosch break down like that before, but if anything is going to make him break down, it's that. It was just so well done, 10 out of 10.
I needed that. Like, I needed to see that as a viewer. Like, before we got to that point, I was starting to feel a little bit like, why are we not seeing Bosch more emotional after all of this? And it was sort of a function of, okay, well, he's trained, he's trying to bottle a lot of this up, but it eventually gets to this point where he can't anymore and everything is out there, and of course he's going to do this by himself because he doesn't want anybody else to really see exactly how it is that he is feeling. Now, as I don't want to say as a fan of the movie Taken, but as someone who has seen the movie Taken and has seen what Liam Neeson does,
when his daughters is taken.
yes, I need to see Bosch now go Liam Neeson for at least an episode or two. Give us a little bit more of that flavor. I mean, Harry, you're not technically with the department anymore. You can let your hair down. Not that you have that much hair, but you can go for it.
Yeah, I'm curious sort of how many episodes they're going to really be able to go with this particular plot, because as we saw at the end of this episode, Maddie's buried underground
Yeah.
out in the desert. So, I mean, isn't going to have that long underground. I don't know. I don't know the hours. I'm not an expert in burying people alive. But I assume she's not going to have that much air for that much time. So there really is like, the clock is ticking. You got to find her. And this is where I'm like, okay, what is the deal? What is it that this, city inspector wants to get out of this? We know
Mhm.
that he's the man behind the mask that has been terrorizing the neighborhood.
Yeah.
What does he want out of this? He's decided to take Maddie, who's a cop. So he knows that he's in it even deeper now, because
Yeah.
now he's got the whole force like on him. So what is the deal that he wants to make? We saw him go in at the end of the episode and be like, "Hey, I'm the person you're looking for. You want her, then I need to lawyer up and I'm going to need something in return." Is it like, I'll give you guys Maddie, but all this other stuff I was doing, you need to just like let it go sort of thing, and I'll give you back this person and all my crimes are absolved? Like, I don't know what he thinks he's getting out of this.
Like just like you're not an expert at burying people alive, I'm not an expert at understanding the criminal mind, and I'm
I'm
just
just
sort
an
of
expert in burying people who are already dead. For those of you who don't know, I am a former funeral director, so I am an expert in that, but not alive.
I am not an expert in either of those things, or the criminal mind, or police work in general,
No.
and it's just this is sort of the big question mark I have with this, and maybe we'll get a better explanation. It's just like I don't understand the city inspector guy really at all when it comes to okay, you're burying Maddie alive. You're going in here. Sure, I'm guessing you can make a couple of demands, but how arrogant do you have to be to think that the entire police force is going to be like, okay, we'll strike some sort of deal with you so that we can make sure that Maddie is okay and we'll look the other way on all of this other stuff. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me that this guy, even if he's like halfway sane, would expect them to go along with whatever it is that he's going to put on them, unless he's coming to them with like something that is really damaging for the department itself. Like he has some like really big dirt that like they don't want to get out, then what's their incentive to do anything?
Yeah, this isn't Justified City Primeval where there's like some magic book out there that's got dirt on everybody
Yeah,
in the police department.
no.
Like, they're not going to make that trade. Like, he's going to go to jail. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. How does he get out of that? There's two major crimes that are going on here at the same time, and one
Yeah.
of them is taking a cop. There's no
Yeah.
way they're gonna let that go.
Can we just throw out a question here? Does city inspector masked criminal suck? And by that I mean, is he a compelling enough villain? Like the story with Maddie and her being in danger, that's a good story. Like there's a lot of stakes there. There's a lot of drama there.
Mhm.
This guy, I don't know. There's just not something, you talk about Justified. Like compare this guy to Boyd, compare this guy to even Clement. It's just like he is not popping off the screen for me. I would like to see Maddie rescued in a couple of episodes, and if we're gonna have a big bad, give me somebody with a little bit more charisma. Give me somebody with a little bit more just like that I can both understand and be afraid of.
This was the part of the episode that I found a little weird. Her partner kept sort of like harping on the same thing, where she was just like, Maddie wouldn't leave it alone. She was supposed to just let the detectives take it. I'm like, what are you saying? Like, this is her fault? She's a cop. Like, if she has an instinct or she has a thread of clues that are kind of leading to something where it's like, Oh, we were canvassing the neighborhood. I saw this sign for the city inspector. Here he is over at this food truck. I'm just going to ask him some questions. Her partner being like, she should have left it alone. It's like, why? No, this isn't her fault for digging into it.
This was even kind of an issue in season 1 for me, where there were a lot of instances where Maddie was just sort of pushed to be like, "Okay, just you don't need to go with this any further. You can pass it off to this person or this person." Like, I get that she is very new to the force and there are certain limitations, certain protocols that need to be followed, but if you don't feel like everybody else is doing a good enough job or can do it the way that you're doing it, I'm not surprised that Maddie, whose last name is Bosch.
She's a
Yeah,
Bosch. No way she just gonna let something go if she doesn't think people are going, 100% at something.
yeah, she's going to become the meme of just fine, I'll do it myself. And of course, that's what she's going to try to do. I mean, unfortunately, that does end up getting her in this situation. But if she wasn't going to do this, who was going to do this? And I think it's clearly made City Inspector Guy panic enough to the point where he's moved outside of a typical MO and he's being reckless.
Yeah, that's the thing is like, yeah, the partner's like, "Oh, if she had just handed it off to the detective, she'd be fine."
Yeah.
Okay, but then the detective would have been taken because it's like it seems like the city inspector was going to take whoever was circling him. Like if he had seen Edgar on his porch
Yeah.
grabbing his smokes, then Edgar could have been taken. Like who knows, right?
If you take Jerry
Oh,
Edgar,
no,
I
no, no,
swear,
no,
no,
no.
no, it's great to have Edgar back. Even like you said, he's going to have a larger role this season. We'll see kind of where everything heads with this. I want it to kind of lead to at least, even if it's temporary, just a lot of Edgar and Bosch sort of working together,
Yes.
and one of them can
Yes.
sort of present like the police side of things, and then
Mhm.
Bosch can kind of do some things that the police maybe can't. And, like we've already set up, who knows how long this arc is going to go. But I think for as long as it's here, Edgar should be here.
Absolutely. I mean, he really was able to pick up on things pretty quickly with the city inspector, looking through Maddie's notes, going there, taking the cigarettes. I mean, and of course, he has been doing some solids for Bosch. I mean,
Yeah.
he knew that everyone was going to be sent over to the city inspector's house. He had about an hour. He gave a solid to Harry to be like, okay, we're going to be there and we're going to be there in an hour and I will give you the heads up when we're actually there. It was just kind of surprising to see the way that I know Harry was like really upset, but
Yeah.
I mean, he was making so much noise, yelling out Maddie's name. I was just like, if the guy's in here,
Yeah.
he's leaving. Like, I get you're only looking for Maddie, but what are the chances that he's brought her to his house? They're zero.
Yeah. If Bosch was still a part of the police force at this point, we're pretty sure they would all be like, go sit on the bench, Harry, because he's way too emotionally invested in all of this. He's compromised. He's not thinking clearly. I mean, Edgar, it's not like he's not emotionally attached in any way, but
Of course.
he's still able to do his job. And I think that's where his importance is going to lie. I will say in general, I know Bosch Legacy, like this version of the show, hasn't been around that long, but
Nope.
this is the best episode that I think they've had of it. I think season 1, there were some good moments, but it also didn't feel focused, I think, in the way this episode was, where it's really like, here is the big story. Here is everyone else sort of revolving around that story in some ways.
Yeah, my biggest question coming out of this is about Maddie. So, we've seen that she's, brand new to the force. I love that in the first season that they showed her making mistakes.
Yeah.
That's going to happen. She didn't just come out and she was like super cop like her dad, that
Yeah.
she had some fumbles, was still doing on the job learning, tripping up on some things. I love that they did that with her. Now that this has happened, which isn't her fault, she did do the right thing of like, oh, I was looking at this notice. Here's this guy at the food truck. I'm just going to ask him what he knows. Like, here's an opportunity. Let's go with it. That now that this has happened, once she gets out of this situation, because I think we all think she's going to get out of the situation. If she gets out of this situation, is she still going to want to continue to be a cop after this? Is this going to motivate her even further to be like, now that I've been on this side of it, now I really, really want to be a cop because I'm never letting this happen to anybody else? Or is she going to be like, this isn't for me? Listen, I'm happy to try and catch bad guys and stuff like that and be on the side of the force, but like, I'm not here to be a victim.
I think if she is to say, this isn't for me, the way that I would accept that is if that means I'm going to join forces with my dad and we're gonna become like this, like, yeah, I know. I'm already having this thing in my head now
Oh,
of
I
like
would love that Bosch and Bosch and
the
the PIs.
I think I'm getting myself too excited for something that I have no idea if it's ever gonna happen.
Listen, I got really excited when regular Bosch was going on and Goliath was going on. I was like, they're both in LA. How would they not know each other? This is a crossover
Yeah.
like gem just waiting to happen.
But the Bosch family PI would be insanely fun. I mean, I think
Oh, that'd be so fun.
regardless, Maddie's gonna be. I don't want to say she's gonna be fine because she's gonna have obviously a lot of emotional scars after this. But I don't
Yes.
think she's gonna die. I think she'll find her way out of this one way or another, and then maybe that will set up the rest of the season in a way that will be surprising and interesting.
I think so.
All right. Well, we will say goodbye to Bosch Legacy Season 2, Episode 1. But be sure to join our Patreon. We have live streams every week talking about Bosch Legacy. We've got that link in the description. Thank you so much to all our patrons for your
Thank you.
support, and we'll see you here next time.